ever pressure wash the inside of your car? Me neither.
I've dislocated my shoulder enough times to know when you partially do it, and ooh, that moving of the tire. Anyway, it's getting old, so I'm retiring after this, but let's show you the inside of the car. I peeled back a lot of the insulation there, the body seam sealer, to get to the rust that was showing all the way until it became clear metal, so I'm gonna seal all of that and treat it. Lots of just rat nests. Looks like an oil spill happened there at one point, but there was actually a ton of soda and sticky candy sugar underneath the floor mats. Minimal rust on this one. The inside of the doors, as we've seen earlier, are full of sand. I swept most of it out, but I think a proper rinse will go a long way, including the cowl up there. And down in the rocker panels, there are a bunch of more sand and leaves. Lots of little bits of pieces of leaves. Looks like we got another rat's nest down there. Gonna flush that out. Much better. Still rinsing. Here's what I'm finding out. Everything starts at the cowl. If you can't get a clean cowl, you ain't gonna get a clean floor. You ain't gonna get none of them drains. And I just gotta get it out. And there's leaves in there. There are sticks. Anything that gets through that screen gets in there and it sticks up the drains. Thankfully, you can back flush it because it is the same as the flaps. These flaps. So it should run right down to them. The issue actually lies up here. For example, see that leaf in there? Thankfully, with the heater box removed, you can get your hand in there a little bit, but I got this little garden stake. I guess we'll just have to poke stuff and send it on its way out. There it is. I'm just finding all kinds of cool stuff. This drain keeps getting plugged, naturally, and there's a bunch of sand, but removing all the plugs along the rocker panel there really helped to open up the drain and give good access here, because you can just back flush through every hole, and then I'm really constantly running through it. Up here it wasn't draining, so I started feeling around, and lo and behold, there was a plug. This is just some butyl putty plugged in there, but you see even the rust on it, because any rain that gets in there doesn't have anywhere to drain. And that plug, there's my finger, that plug was preventing it from happening. So I'm gonna run the hose in there again, make sure to rinse out all the debris, put some of that OSFO in there, and just keep disturbing the dirt here. Keep letting it rinse out the bottom. You can see the sand slowly, and it's plugging up again. It is literally rinse and repeat. This seems to be like the only drain on the side. I'm gonna explore underneath a little bit more, because I have this area under the seats which seems to be split left to right. I can't get that to drain, and I don't know why. I don't know where the drain is for it. And back here, the access for that is up through there. Looks pretty gnarly. Not that bad actually, but there was some mice that nested in there, so it was a difficult flush. And over here, it just seems easier to remove the drain plugs for the time being. I'd say you wouldn't believe what kind of things came out of these. especially these. But I'm afraid you would believe it. Just a lot of gum wrappers, candy wrappers, things that are sweet. Those little taster testers for ice cream shops, tiny spoons. Look at that, more candy wrappers. There's a body plug here. Leaves coming out, thankfully, that's good. If you have a low tolerance for leaves, you will have a low result of rust, which is great. So the hose is up there. We get a little bit of a lift here. It goes down both sides. From there, it drains over along the side, down into the fresh air vent. You should see some water. There, you can see water running. I'm glad those fresh air vents are there. And then from there, it makes its way down into the rockers. Ah, look at that, a leaf. We have a traffic violation. There is a metal panel back here that's kind of making it difficult to get some of those leaves to pass. It's not a straight channel all the way. I found them, I found them, I found them, I found them. All the water drains. Yes, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So paint scale like this here is plugging them up just as much as leaves. You may be in an environment that doesn't have any, but such an important task. This one's particularly bad. It's in the corner where all the crud makes its way. There are 2 oval openings there. You see the one red one on the right side and the hoses on the other, and that really made the water very murky. Turns out those last 2 drains on the rocker panel from the underside are both attached to this lode, L-O-D-E in the river sense. And we're hoping to find the mother lode, which would actually be the cowl, but I learned that recently. And yeah, I drilled a hole in here because right there, there's no other way of draining it. So I'm gonna just keep flushing from the top and from the very back. Eventually it'll be clean. That front half right is clean, so it's about 1/4 of the drains are clean on this car. This is a lot of effort, and that's just how I am with my cars. I have to have it pretty darn clean if I can do it. Otherwise, I don't know, it's hard for me to sit and be like, ah, it's good enough. I gotta know that it's good in there, like real nice and clean in there. Besides, there were rats. There's still poo. I'm trying to get that all out. I'll sleep a lot better now, knowing that this thing has been fleshed out finally, but I don't know if I want to show you how much stuff came out of it. Okay. Can you believe all of this crap lived in the car? In the car. This is mostly the mouse nest. Since the mice like to collect a bunch of household items, wrappers, etc., I don't want to just flush it all down the street and have that plastic in the drains. So I will sweep like a responsible young man. Good morning, my people. It is another beautiful day here at Volvo Rescue. I want to say thank you, first of all, for tuning in again, because your viewership means a lot to me. And as much as you are there for me, I'm there for you. I read all those comments. So today on Volvo Rescue, I'm hoping to accomplish one very big task. And it sounds simple, but it's probably going to take a while. I have a big order from VP Auto Parts coming tomorrow, and I would like that to be ready for the car, or I should say the car be ready for the order with everything disassembled and ready to just sort of put back together. With the exception of the suspension and the rear end, Ivy's pretty much all taken apart and cleaned and ready to just kind of get all magic put back together. Amy will have that happen eventually, but for right now, today, I want to put the interior back together. It's going to be a lot of pieces. I'm going to take the best parts from both cars, as was the point of this parts car, and assemble a very nice looking, complete interior. I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do for carpet yet, but today is just going to be a lot of focusing and trying to stay on task. Hopefully not too many distractions. All right, see ya. Some of you folks have expressed concern over the chemicals going down the driveway and somewhere out into the desert. I think there's a body of water occasionally. At least there's a water table. Thankfully, super clean products are just biodegradable and phosphate-free, so they're safe for the water table. Unfortunately, things like the engines, when I'm power washing them, you know, the layer of oil on there, well, it's minimal and it's attracting a lot of dirt. Yeah, and that stuff does end up kind of rolling down the hill and into the soil somewhere. Soil, it's all sand out here. Speaking of sand, that was most of the stuff that came out of the car last night. Like I said, I swept up most of the gum wrappers, candy wrappers, etc. from the inside of the car, you know, stuff like that. Gross. This is just complete stuck to it. But, you know, mostly sand. I do try to be conscious of what goes down into the earth because I don't like to send chemicals in there. I want to be a good steward here. Anyway, that's just the PSA for letting you know and having a little peace of mind that I'm not just dumping coolant into the rocks. Maybe 10 years ago, Dave would have tried something like that out of desperation, but now he bottles everything and it's labeled back there so that I can make sure, boy, it's messy in here. I can make sure that I'm a responsible adult. Moving on there's no way I'm putting this rug back in. So I did a little shopping. We'll see about these, but I found a carpet that's actually very similar in style and design. And the ski pass-through on the back seat here allows for extra long items on the 240 to fit. There's also this darker brown, which is approximately 69% cheaper, but that's a carpet that may or may not get used. I'll see if I can lighten up the color a little bit. It's terribly faded, but what I hope to do is get that in there, cut to shape, and most importantly, use the same fittings here so that I can have it stitched into place. It's a two-piece design, 3 little teeth. I'm hoping it'll work. The tricky thing about this carpet is thick, but you notice it has a lot of bend to it. There's like a jute backing, and then there's the carpet webbing in there. This carpet's pretty thick. I don't know, it doesn't feel any thicker than the one coming out of there. And it's a low nap, it's not high nap like residential carpets like you see there. This is, I don't know what kind of rug this is. It's more suitable for like outdoor patio types, but there's no backing on it. It's really simple, very thin, and super bendy and flexible, which will be good for getting it to attach to things, make those curves around. But it's many pieces of the rug in this car, so I'm hoping that if I cut everything and use the old ones as patterns, I can get it to work out nicely. These, TBD, 12 bucks a piece. Her name's Ivy, come on. You gotta do something here. Now, I've tried green paint, but this is dark hunter green. I'm gonna compare it to the original, but I would like to respray the inside of the car so that it at least has nice, pretty even laying colors on it. Very importantly, a lot of the old insulation has come out, and I can add extra insulation to places where it would be very much appreciated, like the headliner, the doors a little bit more in the trunk, and more along the wheel wells. This is actually a really good brand. I've used it for years, many years, since Arthur, back in 2012 when I was doing the IPD build-off. This here is really great. It's got like a tar backing to it, and it's good, cheap sound deadening, 18 bucks a roll, something like that. I'm gonna be sealing the carpet properly with the latex seam sealer. That's everything. Great, let's have some fun. How do you say I got carried away in Swedish? Ostful. This stuff is great. My brother's wife is a lawyer, so she knows all about cease and desist. This is it right here. When you've got rust, oh man. It's diluted 10 to 1 right now, but it does come pre-diluted. I used so much of it on Amy, and I'm, just going over every inch again on Ivy. And all this prep. Hours invested will become miles enjoyed. While this is drying a little bit, and by that I mean everywhere, also keep Osphol off your paint. It looks like it ate right through the wax, but you wipe it enough and it should be okay on the paint. It is also pretty rough on the epoxy on the floor here. This is the crumbly material with a little bit of glue on it, but you see how it just dusts? That is on the back of all of these panels. These are both cars' insulation sound deadening panels that are attached to the bottom. The only one that had glue like that is right there. That's the firewall blanket, and I'm going to just power wash first the backside of them, kind of rinse all that rubbery dust stuff. It's like a foam, essentially, that's just dried out completely. And then from there, I will flip them over and wash the other side. Here you see that the carpet I bought is actually very similar in color to the carpet that was in Amy. This is just store-bought carpet for both examples. The color is called taupe. And the original Volvo carpet color is a little different. It's a lot more sandy, and I would like to get a similar color matched with that. So what I'm gonna try is to dye this other rug, which is a much thinner and I think more agreeable material when it comes to corners and edges because of that thinner backing that I had described earlier. I'm gonna do a sample piece first, and then hopefully I remember the formula and can try to dye the whole thing. I'm really quite fond of these puzzles, but unfortunately the nap on the carpet, or maybe not the nap, but you know, there's a pattern in it, and it's these sort of elongated dashes. It doesn't really show terribly, but you know, the entire carpet will be rotated like that. Kind of looks like mouse poo to me, this pattern. I don't like that. Oh, that might just ruin it for me. But this is my low consequence $12 rug, so if I mess it up, that's okay. It's a good experiment. And speaking of experimenting, turns out there's a big difference in these two pads. I should put them in the car to compare exactly how they sit in there, but it looks like the manual transmission one here, and then the auto one, which is the Home Depot carpet, or wherever that's from, as you see there. That one seems to be longer, less of an angle, straight here versus the curve of the tunnel. I don't know if these had different tunnels between the two cars because it looks the same. Well, you tell me. Do those look the same to you? For that very reason, I'm going to be cutting it larger. Therefore, I'm leaving all this extra space for me to get it into place, worry about the attachment points then, and finally do my trimming. There's certain shapes that some of this stuff makes, and it's pretty straightforward for being 60s technology. I think this wrinkle here is just water damage, but it does sort of cup around the seatbelt mounts, and I'll have to be very precise. Maybe not. We'll see. I just don't want it to be sloppy and look bad, but I also don't want to spend way too much time on it. I know a carpet kit's available for $140. The trouble with the 164 is that piece isn't available, so if VP ever makes it, maybe I should send him that one. So this piece, you see, has a stitch about 10 inches there. That stitch gives it a little bit of a pinch, so I will have to probably use up a lot of material there. I don't know what I'm going to do about the stitching yet. I haven't decided. That one does a lot of wrapping around, but it doesn't look like any fancy stitching lives on this piece. But it does beg the question, does the passenger side have a similar piece? Got to find that out. All right, and I'm saving the worst for last. This one just wraps around, no fancy stitching, no fancy stitch. A little bit of black mold, that's my best guess. Kind of smelled like it, but can't be sure until you do the taste test. This guy here, that's gonna be one tough nut to crack. Not only do we have the curves of the side, it's a really cool piece, but we've also got one pinch here, none on that side. The tunnel's different left to right. These little nubbies, okay. This one's a bigger nubby. And the curve it makes down here is also met with a curve down there. Pinches on both sides. Well, most of you probably aren't gonna do this job, so I won't take too much time, but wish me luck. First one is a cup of vinegar. Second solution, bleach. Well, this is probably olefin or polyester, and it does not dye. These have not changed one bit in 20 minutes. Oh well. Looks like we're gonna end up using the more expensive rug if I can manage to fit everything in that one pattern. Making a point not to look at the clock because I don't even want to know what time it is. I am kind of laughing at myself, but also, I don't know if it's disappointed or not surprised that it took so long and so little has actually been crossed off the list, yet so much has been, I guess, taken care of. I removed the door seals. Of course, this is the one that gives you the most trouble, the very last one you do. And I painted the inside the darkest green I could find, which is called Dark Hunter Green. Still a little too modern of a color for the original green, but I only did the parts that were important. That is the floor where the surface rust existed and then was sealed using OSPO. Now, Bill, he said the trouble with repainting cars is that it hides a lot of the sins. And I was thinking about that the entire time that I was painting this, but it's not the same thing because this isn't the exterior of the car that I'm painting. For example, there is some Bondo here. You can see them cracks, very nice. So there are some sins hiding, and on the inside it looks like it even caught on fire as they were welding it or whatever happened, who knows. I just did a very thin coat to essentially seal the bottom of the car. You can see the places where I've put paint in the rocker panel, and I've taken a whole less is more approach. I don't want to, paint the sound deadening and everything else, just whatever I absolutely needed to paint. So anywhere where there was really bad scuffing. Back seat I'm gonna leave alone. I just did a very thorough cleaning on it. I did eventually find drain plugs for these guys, and they're hiding way back there. The inside of that frame rail, the sides going up where it was actually showing a little bit of surface rust, including parts of the inside there where it looked like a little bit of it. And the thing I'm most proud of is from the inside of the heater core access and I was able to paint most of the inside, the fresh air intake cowl. All right, now that my shoes are properly sticky from wet paint, I am ready to go to bed. Oh wow, it's 2 hours earlier than I thought it was. It just rolled over into midnight. Time to go hit the hay. See you all in the morning. And I'm actually very excited to finally get to reassembling this thing. A little bit more work in the trunk, but I got the new struts in so it holds itself up. And that helps quite a bit when I'm in there with the pick, flaking off parts of the body filler. Not body filler, but the seam sealer from Volvo, where the rust is starting to form. So you just sort of pop it all out until you get to bare metal that's non-rusted, and that's how you know you can seal and be protected. So, a day full of OSFO and a day full of painting and wiping. I probably went through 80 wipes. Okay, good morning. Hey, you want to know something you can't bleach? Plastic. Hey, I was actually surprised that I got the butt cheeks to push out a little bit. This side came out a little better, but it's the one that has the more rust. All the rust is sealed, but I took the handle here from the jack and just dunk, dunk, dunk. Actually, that one didn't need any pounding, just pushing. This one, a little bit of pounding. And now we have smooth butt cheeks again. Sorry for the intrusion. I like to start off each day with a sweep. Makes me feel good to have a clean floor because, as the night goes on, things get real messy, and then you don't want to start a day on yesterday's foot. How about that? Two things. One, OSFO is really bad for paint. Learning this the hard way. Thankfully, nothing too bad here, but it does look like, these spots here, I'll have to try to do something to get through it because it just eats right into it. And check out on the trunk, these runs, this one and this one. Because the trunk is rusted all the way around, I'm gonna have to just leave them be for now. I'll try to clean them up a little bit more, but the great thing about tub of towels, and this is, I guess, the third point, and I haven't even made the second point yet, but tub of towels is very good for inside of the car, outside the car. You can use it on leather too, it says. So they're very great for that. They're awful, however, for glass, because while they will clean a lot of the spots from the glass, they leave a haze, and you have to go through and finish with a Windex or something. So the other point I wanted to make is this car project, it was called a rescue, but it's honestly becoming a half restoration. The only thing I haven't done is take it into a shop to do paint and body work. Honestly, I like this paint and body, so I'm willing to live with that because it's just part of the character of Ivy and who she is. Yeah, I don't think I'll regret that decision later because I prefer character over the value. Maybe not value, but the cost. Yeah, I think the value will be higher if I go back to the original green, but I just love this color. It's so Arthur, that old 67, my first vintage Volvo. So Arthur was the car that started everything. This will be the car that kind of wraps it all up, I don't think I'll be getting into another project like this just because of time and commitment. And, getting to that point where I want to start a family and cars are going to become a lesser priority. And yeah, there'll always be projects, I'm sure, but the commitment of hours in the garage like this, 60 hours a week, it's not sustainable. Anyway, more on that in the years to come. But for now, Yeah, once I kind of redefined this as a partial restoration, as I started getting more and more and more to the frame and the frame and the frame, kind of made it more fun, you know? Sometimes identifying a thing in the right way helps your mind view it differently and not necessarily tricks your brain, but tricks your brain. It took a lot longer than I thought it would to get here, but sometimes those little connecting details matter. I got the insulation in now, and now I begin fitting the carpets, seeing what's exactly the right shape I need, and cutting very precisely.